Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm coming at you tonight to talk about a movie that the first time I saw it, I really just was kind of left speechless. I didn't know how to process everything I had just watched. I didn't know if I had missed certain things. There was just so much about the movie that really made me think and was just bouncing around in my brain. I quickly rewatched it, and I fell in love with the movie. And now this is a movie that, although I won't say how I feel about it entirely till the very end, I'll just say it has stuck with me for years and years and years. And that movie is It Follows. Now, It Follows is what some may call elevated horror, whatever that term means. I know what it means, but you know what I mean. It is a film directed by David Robert Mitchell. And basically, the plot of It Follows is there is an entity, whether is it a ghost, is it a demon, is it what is it? What is it? Well, it follows you once it has been passed on to you through sex by someone that it had been following. And it can take the form of anyone you know, anyone you may not know. It just walks, and it can't run. It's not going to fly a plane or whatever. It walks after you slowly. It will never stop following you. You can buy yourself time by going across the country or whatever it may be, but it's never going to stop following you. And the only way to get it to stop pursuing you for the time being is to pass it along to someone else. But if it touches you, you die. You cannot let it touch you. And once it kills someone, it goes back down the line from who passed it. So the idea is, if this happens to you, pass it and hope they pass it and keep passing it to the point where maybe you never have to see it again. But that's basically the idea of this film. So our lead in this movie is Mika Monroe. She plays Jay. And Jay has been talking to this guy, Hugh, for a long time. Not a long time, but they've gone on a few dates. They really like each other. And she's thinking, hey, tonight could be the night. They go on a date, and guess what? Lo and behold, it is the night. They do it, and he then chloroforms her, knocks her out, ties her up still half naked in this abandoned building, and explains everything to her about it and what she is going to have to do now to stay alive and how she needs to pass it along to someone else, and she can't let it get her because it'll come back to him. He then very crudely drops her off in the street out front of her house, still half naked, and everyone's like, WTF happened. Now, I should mention, the very opening of this movie, we see a girl, Annie, just running through the street and calls her parents and says, I'm sorry for being a shit. I love you. And then we see her dead on a beach with her leg bent at a 90-degree angle, which is a gnarly shot. And it immediately tells you, okay, this movie's going to be kind of gnarly, ? And maybe it's a little misleading, but that girl, Annie, was presumably the one that Hugh had either, had passed it to before Jay. So Jay's trying to tell her friends. Well, actually, she doesn't tell her friends yet. She's just kind of like, I don't really know what just happened. She tells the cops that it was consensual. She goes to school the next day, and she sees an old woman chasing after her that nobody else can see. And that's when she starts to believe that it's real. So her friends are like, we're going to stay with you tonight. We're going to be here for you. Well, the thing shows up, and it's butt naked, weird toothed chick that pees herself in the kitchen. And then it's a giant tall man coming at her, which is a super effective scene, by the way. They decide to go to a lake house to buy some time away from it. It shows up. Jay tries to run away, wrecks the car, ends up in the hospital, passes it to her friend Greg, and then Greg dies. And then they're basically at this point like, you know what? Let's just tackle the entity. And that's basically the plot of the movie in summation. That's really the meat and potatoes of it. But we'll get into some more things about it as we're going through pros and cons. So first of all, I've got to say that some of the decisions in this movie are just amazing. I really like some of the things they do. I like some of the ways it makes you think you know what is happening or what just happened and then you realize you have no idea. For example, there's a scene where Jay is after Greg has died, she just drives to a beach and strips down and gets in the water and is looking at a boat of like 3 dudes, and she starts walking into the water, presumably that she's going to go pass it along to them, and then we don't know what happened. We don't know if she did or not. But then it would lead you to think that she didn't, because it's still chasing after her. Maybe it was just a thought, but it could be that she did, and they're all dead, and now it's following her again. The scenes where, in her house specifically, where the woman comes in through the kitchen and just pees herself everywhere, and then the tall man comes bursting through the door, those are some really effective shots that really linger and make you think. They're unsettling. The thing about this movie is, this is not a movie that is really going to be something that is visceral and is an experience that's really going to get under your skin in a gritty, grimy kind of way. No, this movie is going to be more of an existential dread throughout the movie. This fear of it, and what is it, and what can it do to you, and what will it do to you, and that is just throughout the movie. It just permeates this entire film. Now, I've got to say, let's just get right into pros. We'll talk about some cons. And first and foremost with pros, Mika Monroe is Jay. Mika Monroe is absolutely great in this role. I love her friend Paul, played by Keira Gilchrist. I like Greg, who's the kind of douchey neighbor guy. I like Hugh/Jeff, which that's another plot point, is that she finds out that he's been squatting at this house under a fake name and then disappears once he passes it along to her. His name's actually Jeff. I like her friend group. I like her sister. I like the, camaraderie amongst them and between all of them. I think that they work off of each other really well. And I think that you never get the feeling that they totally believe everything she's saying. But they're a very good friend group in the sense that it doesn't really matter if they believe everything she's saying. They're going to be there for her through it all. And if they think it's crazy, whatever, they're going to support her. Now, eventually they start to realize, oh, it is real. And that's when shit really starts to hit the fan. But I like the cast in this movie. I like everything they do, but I especially like Jay. How can I talk about pros without mentioning the score from Disaster Piece? Oh my God. One of the greatest horror movie scores I have ever heard in my life. And I know people will say that like, oh, okay, I don't know, I think you're being a little prisoner of the moment here. No, this movie's been out about a decade now, and I still feel that way. This score is absolutely amazing. Some tracks on there, Tidal, Jay, Heels, Detroit. There are so many good atmospheric tunes, and it's with a synth. It's very John Carpenter-esque, and it really goes to the kind of slow burn feel of the movie because the score is that way as well. I absolutely love this score. I cannot overstate that enough. This score is brilliant. It is an achievement not seen for me since like some John Carpenter horror movie scores. It is absolutely brilliant. Love it. I really like the tone of this movie. As I said, this movie is a slow burn. This movie is a movie that's going to take a while for you to get into and really understand what's going on. But once it starts, it really starts. And even if there isn't action happening on screen, there's always the fear of it. Where is it? Is it coming for you right now? Could it be outside? Is it one of your friends? Is it going to get you? Can it get your friends? It's literally always there. It is a shadow hanging over this movie the entire time. So it gives this movie, no matter what kind of lighthearted moment may be happening on screen, it gives this movie this sense of just foreboding and just sadness and depression. And I love it. I love it because this movie is a slow burn. As I said earlier, this is not some kind of visceral slasher film. That's not what you're going to get with It Follows. It Follows is very slow burn. It's very thought-provoking. And there are so many metaphors that you can draw from this story. And that's the next thing I want to get into, is the symbolism and the metaphors. At the core of this movie, I don't think this is about what some people think it's about. I think the core of this movie is about fear of aging and fear of eventually getting to a point where it's always following you. What is always following you? Death. Death is always following you. I think that's the closest thing you can really draw from this. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, it's an STD. Well, no, the director, David Robert Mitchell, has said many times it's not. It was never intended to be that way. It is not an STD. You can draw that metaphor to it, absolutely, but that's not it. It is about the fear of death and the fear of getting old and always being followed by death. No matter what you do, you can't avoid it. As someone who has that as their number one fear in life, me, that is absolutely terrifying. And I feel it throughout this movie. It is this: no matter what you do, you can run, you can hide, you can shoot it, you can pray it away. It's coming. It's always coming. Life ends, and that sucks to think about. But that hit me and resonated with me on such a deep level that I think that's a big reason why this movie works so well for me. So I love the theme and the message of this movie. This movie is shot absolutely brilliantly. I love it. It's not enough for the music and the story and the acting to be so kind of old school and slow burn. It's shot amazingly well. There's so many scenes in this movie where the camera is mounted on something and stays stationary on that item while there's action happening in the scene. Whether it's the camera on the chair as Jay is being pushed around that abandoned building. The camera's just staying still, but she is moving and we're moving with her, but the camera is right there locked in on her. Those stationary kind of shots, they're great. There's a lot of wide shots. I love the tone and the color of this movie. I can't tell if it seems like at times it was saturated, like desaturated and then oversaturated at times. It's just, oh my freaking God, I love it. I love it. I could go on and on. The kills, although they're few and far between, they're effective. Whether it's Annie at the beginning when we just see the aftermath. And I mean, that's a grabber at the beginning of a movie because you have no idea what you're about to watch. And your mind goes 15 different places. What the hell happened to her? What is this thing? What did it do to her? We seriously have no idea. But that grisly image of her death is like immediately like, okay, we're in for some shit here. I guess I should just say the imagery as well as the kills. The imagery, whether it's the forms that it takes, these, old, naked people, which is unsettling and plays into the fear of aging and dying as well. And that's why it manifests that way sometimes. Or it's someone you know. The imagery is just amazing. But again, with the kills, Greg's death, I did not know the first few times I watched this movie that this is what was happening. I thought that like the life was being sucked out of him or whatever. He's literally being, there's no other way to say this, fucked to death by it in the form of his mother. That is what is happening. And you're just like, what the, it is way out there, but it stays with you. It's effective. So again, although the kills are very few and far between, they're very effective in this movie. I really like the imagery. I love it all. I love all of that. The climax of this movie is really effective too because they really think there's only one thing left to do, to try to confront it and try to kill it. Try to see if you can inflict human damage to whatever this thing is. And that's another thing, the ambiguity of it. It's amazing. We don't know what it is. We have no idea. We're not supposed to know. We're just supposed to go along with it. And this ending is they try everything. They throw the kitchen sink at this thing. And eventually, I love the shooting at it when you don't know where it is and Yara gets shot. One of the friends gets shot. I laughed when I first watched this movie because I'm like, yeah, it'd probably happen if you're shooting at nothing or what looks like nothing. You don't know where to shoot. So I think it's effective, and I think that the very end, after they think they've killed it, they've shot it, the pool fills up with blood, which is just an amazing image. We see Paul and Jay walking hand in hand down the sidewalk as something follows behind. And is that just a person? Or is that it? And are they just back and forth passing it to each other now? You also get this ambiguity, like Paul pulls up to a couple of prostitutes on the side of the road, and you don't know if he maybe passed it along to them. Yeah. So that's the pros of this movie. The biggest, again, the ambiguity. There's so much ambiguity and things left unsaid here, and it's just so effective and it's thought provoking, and it really, really makes you think. Like, you dig deep and you're like, man, that's some good stuff. Some good stuff. Now we got to get into the cons of It Follows. And, as much as I loved talking about the pros about this movie, I've got to get into the cons. And the cons of this movie there are none. Yeah, none. Now, before anybody lambasts me in the comments and goes, every film has flaws. Yeah, if I felt like nitpicking, sure. I don't. I don't feel like nitpicking. So taking this movie at face value, I don't walk away from this movie wanting anything other than what I got. I never expected to get as good as I did get with it. And yeah, I mean, that's really all there is to it. I'm not going to sit here and nitpick because I think this movie is damn near flawless. And I've always felt that way about this movie. I mean, in summation, guys, this movie, there's so many layers to it that are just so effective. It's about the fear of death and being chased by what is inevitable. And it's not about the promiscuity. You think it's about the promiscuity, but it's not. It's not about that. This isn't a movie saying sex is bad. If anything, this is a movie saying that you should have sex more. Like, really, if we're really digging deep into it, I think that message permeates more than don't have sex or you're going to get it. No, because it's still there for other people. It's still getting passed around everywhere. You might as well have a ton of sex and just pass it everywhere. You know, it's because the idea at the end of the day, the core theme is it is inevitable and it is death. It is going to catch you eventually, no matter what you do. And it's about aging, and it's just, the themes are beautiful. The score is beautiful. The cinematography is beautiful. The acting is beautiful. The ambiguity is beautiful. The imagery is beautiful and effective. The type of scares you get in this movie are chilling. They're not thrills. It's chills. And sometimes I am so in the mood for a good hour and a half, hour 45 minutes of a slow burn, chilling, old school feel horror movie. And that is what this movie is. Now, if you're not into slow burn, if you're not into more suspense and ambiguity, and you're more into the visceral, this movie isn't for you. I will say, though, no matter how we feel personally about this movie, you know, individually, it is a great film, you know, compositionally. It is made super well, and it's just either this is in your wheelhouse and it's your taste or it's not. But I think that this movie just has resonated with me so deeply because of its core themes and its score and its imagery. And I'll say it for the 15th time, ambiguity. So, guys, I have to say, I think that It Follows is a modern horror masterpiece. I think this movie is a masterpiece. I think it's a masterclass in, you know, score composition, filmmaking, acting. I think it's a masterpiece in every sense of the word. I think that this is easily a top 10 horror movie of the 2000s, in my opinion. I would struggle to find not 10 more movies that I could say are better and affected me as deeply as this movie did. I mean that. This movie it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I think the themes and the motifs and the imagery and the metaphors and the uncertainty will just stick with you for years to come because it still sticks with me. And I absolutely love this movie. I think it's a cinematic triumph. So if I were to rate this movie, it is absolutely 5 out of 5 stars. It is unequivocally one of my favorite films I've ever seen. And I love it to this day. I just grow more and more fond of it the more I listen to the score or the more I watch it. I like to not watch it too much and then make it an event to watch it again because I love this movie. So yes, guys, I think It Follows is a masterpiece. If you haven't seen it, please check this movie out. It is fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like on the video, comment down below, and let me know what you think of It Follows. Be nice to each other in the comments, and be nice to me, please. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on social media. Check out the Uneeda Horror Podcast over at Planet CHH and all audio platforms. You can stream it anywhere now. Listen to it right in your earbuds. And that's going to be it for me today. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.